all that other good stuff.
Hi, everyone. We're live. We're going to wait a few minutes. Welcome to another Careers with Donella on a Friday evening. I'm here with my guest, Jermaine. We're going to give people a few minutes to come in to this session. I do these Friday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. We will do a few different time zones, different guests, different time zones, but thank you so much for being here. With that, I'm going to start the show. I think we have some people being notified, Jermaine, that you are live. Hi, Jermaine. How are you?
I am wonderful. Thanks for having me, Donella. I
So
really
thanks.
appreciate it.
This is great. So everyone, I wanted to, again, LinkedIn connections are very critical. I'm a strong believer in connecting on LinkedIn. Jermaine, that's how we connected. Now we know each other, which is fantastic. Jermaine, it's great to have you here. And everyone, just so you all know, Jermaine, when you do meet Jermaine, he is 6'5", and I'm looking at here, I'm 5'3", so it's hilarious seeing our difference on the StreamYard.
Yeah, we're the same size.
Yeah, right. So it's
Same
kind of
yard.
funny when we always meet. So with
Right.
that, Jermaine, I'm gonna just turn it over to you for a few minutes and for you to tell us about your background.
Well, Donella, again, thank you for having me and everyone that's able to join us today or this evening, or whatever part of the world you're in. Thanks for joining us. Uh, Jermaine Stanley, I am in the greater Washington, D.C. area. My LinkedIn profile is out there. Several of you are my connections. And again, thanks for the support. I got a lot of experience in technology. I grew up on the east side of Detroit. So if there are any Michiganders out there, you know what I'm talking about. And, thanks for putting that up there. Yeah, so I sit on a couple of tech nonprofits, one related to ISACA, and one is related to the greater Washington, D.C. area. One is related to the philanthropic arm of ISACA, and that's all about building digital trust careers for those who are in those underrepresented groups. And, I get a question a lot about why I am so passionate about DEI and technology. And I could tell you that someone who's worked in .com, someone who's worked in the Baby Bell systems before the internet, and all the way up to today, I've seen quite a bit as far as the changes, the challenges that are going on, that folks that are experiencing who are like me. As Donella, you mentioned, I'm about 6'5". I am a Black Latino, or Afro Latino, if you want to call it that. And we have a different experience, and I know this is not new to a lot of people who are out there. I am not unique in regards to being someone of my stature. It's just that I have a platform, and I want to be able to talk about this and to remind people that this still matters. I say that if you look at my hashtag, I put it in all my posts. DEI, or diversity, equity, inclusion, still matters. And if the pandemic and the recent shootings and other things that we hear about every day just about hasn't shown us anything, it showed us that we still have a lot of work to do on this front, right? Because we are a melting pot of a country, rather, not a company, a country that has a very tenuous history when it comes to race relations, as we all know, right? And I know we're going to be talking about AI and all those other good things, but I want to set the tone on, why, it's important to understand that there is something happening with regards to AI and regards to this space or this topic of inclusion, of equity, and things of that nature, right? So I know you gave me the floor, Donella. I can talk about this all day, but I will yield the floor back to you, and I'm all ears.
So thank you. So we have over 200 people joining us tonight. So this is great.
Awesome.
We already got a couple of shout outs to you already, Jermaine.
Just want to shout out. All right, Holly. There you go. All right.
And we have Angela.
Angela, thank you. Yes.
So I think just to make sure we're all, because I also have clients as well here who want to, work in tech, who, I've done resumes for, so, and who also want to work in DEI. So I would like you to give a clear understanding of what really is DEI so that we're all on the same page.
All right. I can do that. And I'll just say this. Hey, Dr. Marcia, thanks for joining. This is my perspective.
Yes.
And this is just how I look at it, right? Call me crazy if you want. Diversity, equity, inclusion. Diversity is kind of like, you're mixing it up. You're making sure that there's representation. Inclusion is like being invited. I'm sorry, equity is like being invited to the dance, right? And you think about those old high school dances, those old middle school dances. And then when you get to inclusion, yeah, you're invited to the party, but ain't nobody asking you to dance. Right? So you put that into the context of our society, access to information, right? Or in the workforce or the workplace, access to opportunities to advance your career. Women run into a wall all the time when it comes to advancing in their careers, right? So that's how I look at DEI from that perspective. And I try to make it as simple as, I know everyone may not understand what it means, but the more important pieces of diversity, equity, and inclusion are the equity and inclusion piece, right? Because diversity, you can have a bunch of people of different races, different nationalities, different persuasions in your organization, right? But if you're not doing anything to give them equal, well, not equal, but equal opportunities, equitable opportunities, right? Equity and equality are different, right?
Right.
And not to get those two mixed up. And then you have inclusion, right? Are you including us in these conversations? And as we talk a little bit more about AI, you'll understand where I'm getting at with that piece.
Just want to give you a few more shout outs too. We got so many people in the chat, Jermaine, here for you. So definitely, and if anyone has any questions for Jermaine, let me know, post it in the chat. We had Keith and things like that. So if you could just talk a little bit more about AI and technology, and because this is your bag, and really go into some of the things that we talked about. And I'm going to actually bring up a slide to help the conversation, because you were also talking about, there were some movies that kind of touch on this topic. So I want to just have this up in case people want to write notes while you talk.
Absolutely. This is great. So Coded Bias is a documentary on Netflix, and I'm sure there's some out there who have seen it. If you have, watch it again. I did. I watched it 2 or 3 times. And then those who haven't, it's a must see, right? I'm not going to get into all the details of the documentary, but it does expose or enlighten around the coding practices in artificial intelligence, right? And with artificial intelligence, this is my opinion, again, this is my view on artificial intelligence. It's built in the image of its creator, right? I'm not talking about God. I'm talking about the people who are actually doing the coding. Right. And here's the thread between diversity, equity, inclusion, or race relations, or historical facts. It is that, over years, the folks who are coders, who are developers, who are leaders of organizations, they have had years and years of experiences, right? And through those experiences, this is for everybody. We're not different in this regard. We are all the same in this regard. We all have unconscious bias. And over those years of experiences and, whatever you want to call it, we develop unconscious bias around certain things, right?
Right.
So unconsciously, we may exclude a group of people. So back to the Netflix story. So with regards to Coded Bias, Joy, who is the main character or main person in this movie, she's a former MIT student. She did graduate. And she does talk a little bit about how she was trying to use some facial recognition software.
Right. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. And it wouldn't pick up her skin color, right? Because she was too dark. But as soon as she put on a white mask, it picked it up.
Right.
So you think about that a little bit, right? And as I was saying earlier about our history as a country, that's also a reflection. You think about that. That's a reflection
Right.
of what this country has done. Now, I love my country. I'm a United States citizen. I love all people, right? And I have many, many friends who are not people of color, and they're still really good friends of mine, you know, and I'll say it, they're white, but they're
Right.
great people. But then there's others who are not, right? And then there's the absence of representation when we talk about the table of how do you develop this technology, right?
Right.
Now, don't want to bash artificial intelligence. As you can see, I got a Star Wars poster on my wall, right? I'm a big sci-fi nerd. I'm a geek. I love this stuff. Star Trek, Star Wars, you name it. We had a conversation right before this
Right.
about shows that we like, right? So, you know, I'm not downplaying AI. There's a lot of good things that come out of it, right? But we know that there's this darker side that is starting to become more, noticeable because people like Joy, myself, and others who are out there are really talking about this and how technology, if you look at it, is perpetuating. And I put a post out there earlier today on LinkedIn, if you all haven't seen this, that technology is now perpetuating this whole systemic racism thing when you think about things like what I said about coded bias, AI. And if you could put that slide back up real quick, because I do have some thoughts on those. So I've put posts out on a lot of these things. So automated interviews. I don't know how many folks have heard of this. I'm sure the HR
Quite a few,
professional.
yeah.
Yeah, right. But there were some great articles like with Harvard Business Review and other places that talk about how it was, you know, if you talk about AI and how it's not including certain races or certain groups of people.
Right.
You got an AI camera sitting across from you and you're not really feeling, there's no vibe, you know, there's nothing like that, right?
Right.
And you got this situation where it's all left up to the technology to determine if you get a job or if they move you on to the next phase of the interview process, right? Where's the authenticity in that? And that's frustrating. But there's some articles. I did a post on the automated interview. Check it out. The facial recognition. We can talk a little bit about that too.
Yeah, could you go into that?
Yeah. So other countries, you know, here too, but in other countries, and this is also talked about in coded bias as well, that we all know that Big Brother, those 1984 George Orwell fans out there know that, you know, we're all under surveillance, right? But certain countries like China, not saying they're the only one that's doing this, they have some kind of scoring system, right? So, you know, if you wanted to get internet access, for instance, you have to sign up and commit to facial recognition. So when they see you and, you know, they can keep track of you. That's kind of how you do social control with the technology, right? So again, this stuff is being perpetuated, right? So can you imagine if something like that happened here in the United States with the history that we have, right? With regards to diversity, equity, and inclusion, it would be bananas.
Right. You see Sierra's comment. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but yeah.
Yes, you got to get on that. It's out there. Right. It's definitely out there. So you have other situations where, like in London, for instance, you got a situation where the authorities are using it to identify the baddies. And in some cases, well, not some, a lot, a good high percentage of numbers, they're wrong in regards to who they're identifying as a criminal. Okay. Right. So law enforcement here in the United States, certain counties, states, I think Pennsylvania is one, Florida might be another. I can't recall the others, but I do know that they are using that to do probability around the likelihood that you would be a repeat offender. But the problem with that is the higher number of people were people of color versus Caucasians. So
That's interesting. Okay.
Again, it's a reflection of our history. It's a reflection of where we've been, right?
Right.
So it's seeped into our technology. Technology is great. It does. I mean, I'm a fan of Steve Jobs. I'm a fan of Bill Gates, Michael Dell, Ross Perot. You just think about all these famous tech heads. I'm a fan of them.
Right.
But
and you're even talking more about this too in your Diversity Inc. magazine too, which I thought was really interesting. If people want to look that up, shout out to Linda Bell if you're here tonight.
Linda, thank you. I had a great time interviewing with that. I'll be posting something soon to share that interview. I was one of maybe 4 or 5 people that they interviewed, which I thought was a great honor. But I did touch a little bit on we were talking about the hiring practices around AI or the hiring biases with regards to AI. So, a lot of things are out there in regards to what AI can and cannot do, or the good or the not so good that they're doing. There's one other documentary that I think people should watch. It's called Who We Are, a chronicle of racism in the United States. Jeffrey Robinson is the narrator and the main person of this documentary, where he ran around the country and he talked with people about experiences, and him being from Memphis, I believe Memphis, Tennessee himself, experiencing racism. Now, this gentleman is no slouch. He is a lawyer, an attorney for the ACLU. So he's a big shot, and he's been around for a while. I wanted to see this so much. I even ventured into a movie theater way back in February with a mask. It was like maybe 2 or 3 people, because, of course, they got all the other movies planned that everybody wants to see. So I said, okay, I can slide in and I have a problem. But I was mesmerized from the moment he started speaking, right? And he talks about the reflection of our history, the history that we have as a country. Now we go back to the AI, the technology. Yes, we want diversity in our teams. We want inclusion and equity, because that spawns innovation, right? And if you have more innovation in your company or in your teams, you're going to produce better things, and the bottom line to the folks who are running these companies is you get a better market share, because you're not only producing things that are worth people's time and money, you are attracting also those folks who might want to come work for you, right? And that's where the other thread of this intersectionality comes into play, because at the same time you've got people who are saying, okay, I wonder how this company handles diversity, equity, and inclusion, right? And if they feel or get a sense that this is not going to be a fair proposition for them, they're going the other direction. So you're losing out. And there are still some companies struggling, believe it or not. After all the things that have happened over the last 2 or 3 years, they're still struggling with their DEI journeys, right? And again, I said earlier, I'm on a mission to help these companies, these organizations along this journey. And, because you may not have all the answers, right? Yeah. So, I know I could talk a good bit of time here. I can talk all day on this. So any other questions for me?
So any questions out there? Because I know, too, we have a lot of HR. Hi, where's Donna Smith? Donna Smith we have a lot of HR professionals out here. So if any of you have any questions for Jermaine, you're welcome to talk about it. Like Jermaine mentioned, he's been in Diversity Inc. He's on quite a number of boards. And Jermaine, that's one thing. I just want to put the spotlight back on you. No pressure. But
I'm sweating over here, by the way. No, I'm just kidding.
And this is the one thing about everyone, having someone who's an expert in their field, in their area, and this is so specific. And Jermaine, I think too, if you can talk about how do you actually, oh, wait, we got a question. Let me be quiet. It's Holly.
Okay.
Holly, I'm going to put your question up. Hello. So Jermaine, can you see her question? What are your suggestions for making it attractive for enterprise to prioritize equity and inclusion into their culture and products? Holly, it's Friday night and you sent me that long thing. Hi, Holly. I'm connecting with you later.
Yeah. Holly, thank you, my fellow One in Tech board member. Hey, so I keep it real simple. You just have to invite people to the table. you ask yourself questions if you're a leader in an organization. Are we fair, equitable in our practices? If we're talking broader sense, and I'll talk technology sense, but in either case, you got to invite the people to the table.
Right.
Right. And the thing about this, all of the big companies, all of the mid-sized companies, small businesses, they reside where? In communities. Right. And a lot of people who work for these companies live in that community. And guess what happens? The word gets out that, hey, they're doing some cool things in this enterprise or this company. They're very, one of the best organizations I ever worked for, because this is what they do. They're listening to what I have to say. Here I am. I'm a Black man. I'm a Latino. I'm gay. I'm transgender. I'm Asian. I'm a woman. I'm being heard. Not just check the box and, trying to meet diversity numbers, because there's a lot of companies out there doing that too.
Right.
But I think that's probably the best thing you can do. Hey, Donald, thanks for joining. And so I hope that answers your question, Holly. It starts with, leadership understanding. They have to set that tone at the top, right? Think about it. If you have kids, they see you walking around moping all the time, what do you think they're going to do? They're going to mope. But if you're happy, joyful, creative, innovative, you're probably more likely going to rub off on your children. Think of that mindset. It's got to be the DEI mantra mindset of these leaders that are out there. That's the other part too, Holly. Hope that helps.
Great. I'm just scrolling through for questions. Any other questions? So Jermaine, talk about your experience on getting on boards, because I get a lot of people that go, Donella. Oh, we got another comment. Sorry, I know I'm going to never do it.
No, that's okay.
You have so many fans. Thank you. Oh, thanks, Holly.
You're welcome, Holly.
But if just to share your experience on how do you really how do you prime yourself in your career? You get to those senior levels, and how do you eventually get on the board? If you can just give some insight on that for people out there.
Well, for me, this is more of an organic process, right? I belong to a very large and reputable global nonprofit called CISA. And all the folks out there on this call will know who they are. If you know who IT auditors are, that's what ISACA really started off with, although ISACA has now transitioned to digital trust, cybersecurity, that kind of thing. So through the years, I've been able to volunteer on different committees. So you get involved with these organizations, and most boards that you start off on are going to be the ones that are volunteer boards. But don't let that deter you, because obviously there are paid board seats out there. But the nonprofits that are like an ISACA, like others, there's so much networking, so much connections, so much connecting rather that you can have, so much learning that you can obtain because you're learning from some of the best. They might work in a different industry than you altogether, but they're bringing that knowledge with them, and it's rubbing off. So I've had some great predecessors along the way. I've had some great mentors who have helped me in regards to the board seats. And, the understanding is you're there to serve your membership base as well as your community. So in here, I'm being in the greater Washington, D.C. area, that's what we're all about. And then you have the bigger boards, the international boards that are looking for the broader greater good, right? And sometimes it's good to have some connections. I'm not going to lie about that.
Networking is important, because I tell a lot of clients, you got to network. Get out of your office, network.
Absolutely. And I tell the millennials and Gen Zs that I mentor, my kids, we have both in our house. They're all in college, but we have millennials and Gen Zs. And I often tell them, don't be afraid to strike up a conversation.
Right.
It doesn't have to be about much. It don't have to be about anything. Just break the ice. And you have a friend for life, probably, in some cases, right? But networking is so important in relation to getting on boards. Also, having a good reputation in
Yes.
regards to the work you do, because people will recommend you. And this is how I got, I was selected for the One in Tech Foundation. I attended the Global Leadership Summit for ISACA, and I had a chance to talk to one of the people who were building this out, and they said, you know what, send me your information and we'll see what happens. And lo and behold, I was nominated, and I'm going into my third term, by the way.
Oh wow, great.
Yeah.
And I want to look behind you because you have your banner, your leadership experience tour. So
Yes.
just to put you on the spot a little bit more, if you can talk a little bit about that to everyone.
All right. So those who may be on the call that are part of this, they know what I'm talking about. So Leadership Experience Tour is a platform that was established by Sean Fair of the Fair Consulting Group. And you can look him up. He's out there. And this is allowing folks who want to get or become more proficient or get out and do more speaking, and in some cases paid speaking. He's provided a platform to do that for you, where you have an opportunity to get on stage. This is all streamed online, and you have different people, different walks of life, doctors, lawyers, engineers, pastors, who are talking about different things. So for me, I did this one. This was back in February of this year. They had one recently about 3 weeks ago, but I had a chance to talk about DEI and why it still matters. So look it up if anyone's interested. Leadership Experience Tour is definitely something to do. And by the way, this is one of the things that you do if you want to get out and do more public speaking. You got to have this kind of stuff that you can put in your backdrop, because you're your own brand being, a speaker.
Right. Very true. So we're going to close out. It's actually, you've done 26 minutes, which is amazing. I know you could go on because this is so fascinating. Actually, it's really good. We'll probably have to do a part 2. But talk a little bit about how do you stay motivated? And there's so much information out there, and because there's people out there, it gets hard. They're looking for opportunities or and you just have such a positive demeanor, attitude. When I connected with you right away, you were so enthusiastic. Thank you. And I think that someone might, that you could give words of advice about that, because it's so hard to connect with people. Yeah. How do you stay motivated and inspire people? And just talk a little bit about that.
Well, first and foremost, you believe it or not, if you were to do the Myers-Briggs, I'm more of an introvert. But you wouldn't think that, right? But
I'm a disc girl, so I think you're a high I. When I do disc consult, so I think you're a high I, but go ahead. I'm sorry.
Right. So what I was going to share was, we've all heard this: do what you love, right? Right? Where you find the most joy. And as I said at the top, I've seen a lot. I'm going on 30 years experience. Like I said, I've had probably 4 different careers, right? And one thing that's been consistent is the passion around this topic. Because as a young Jermaine, early 20s, right out of Alabama A&M University, you have this sense that I'm gonna go conquer the world, but then you get knocked down, right? So the passion started way back when, because you start to experience things like code switching or imposter syndrome, because you're trying to fit in and do extra so that you can just get over and achieve different things. So the passion built up in that. So that is something that I like doing. I like talking about this, and I've experienced so much. So, people always say, well, what do you want to do when you grow up? Well, right. This is something that I want to do when I grow up. And we're here. So I stay enthusiastic about this stuff, because at the end of the day, I can share my experiences with those who are up and coming, those who are struggling with their careers. I always make myself available as a resource. As long as you don't act, baddie, I don't mind.
Willing to learn, as long as you're open, willing to learn, criticism, you got to be open to it.
Yes, you got to be open to it, and network. Yes. There's a lot of people out there in this world. And, I stay motivated because it's in my bones, it's in my genes to help, right? I'm a nurturing soul, so to speak, right? So, and again, as I mentioned to you off the air, the passion to help in this space is so important right now, because we still are struggling, with, one, getting through the pandemic completely. Though I think most of the bad part is gone, but we still have a lot of work to do. And it's not that we're going to have a magic bullet or a magic silver bullet or a magic pill or something that will just, okay, it's all over, it's all fixed. It's going to take folks like myself, yourself, others on this call to be aware of all the things that are out there. And I'm just scratching the surface on a lot of these things. We only have a half hour or so, but you asked, so that's
right. This is great.
Yes. I did it. Yes.
This is great. So I'm just looking through the chat. I don't think we don't have any more comments, but I want to thank Donna. Donna's husband, actually, 3 years, Donna. No, hi, Donna. Donna's an HR professional, so I wanted to have her come and listen to you. So this is really great. She has a great career going right now. Just looking through the comments, Jermaine, to make sure we got everyone. You have so many fans. But with that, I want to really thank you for just taking the time out to talk with people, to talk on LinkedIn. This is really fantastic. I really appreciate that. And everyone here, thank you so much for joining. We'll probably have Jermaine back again, I think. Jermaine, you're so popular. But thank you all so much. And we have another comment, just one day. And Jermaine, before we end up, how can people contact you, whether you want on LinkedIn or anything, and a little bit about what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. So LinkedIn is a good place to reach out to me. I do respond. As you indicated. And you can also send me an email at letter J Stanley at stanleyconsults.com. You can also visit my website, stanleyconsults.com, if you want to learn a little bit more about the services I offer and the things that I'm into. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, everyone. Thanks. I'm Donella Tillery. Thank you so much for joining. I hope you join me for another LinkedIn Live. And Jermaine, have a wonderful Friday. Thank you. So with that, we're going to end the broadcast. For those who might want to pass this along, this will be recorded, and Jermaine and I will both share it. We'll share the post, and Jermaine has a lot of great posts. Follow him. He's doing a lot with Diversity Inc. as a contributor, as one of the interviewees. So thank you so much, everyone. I'm just looking through all the comments. This is wonderful. Thank you. You have so many. Thank you, everyone. Have a great night. Thank you, Holly, too, for your question. Thank you. Oh, we have another new comment. Oh, you just have so many people. Hold on, Jermaine. Ron Barnes.
Hey, Ron, we got to catch up. We have to catch up.
You have so many, so I just want to make sure that was someone. I'm not sure who that is. But thank you all so much. I'm going to end the broadcast, and thank you for your support. Thanks.